And also, I guess one thing from my perspective is that pastors' wives have to be viewed as people, not just a position. It's tough for you to live in a glass house and for everyone to be watching you and looking at you and putting unrealistic expectations on you and your family when pastors' wives are just people saved by grace just like everyone else.
Yeah.
You are now listening to the Knights Around the Table podcast.
Welcome back to another season of Knights Around the Table. This is season number 3, officially. And we are kicking it off in a very special way with a special guest. This is our First Lady here at our church at Ebenezer. Also, my mom. This is Miss Gina Henderson, our First Lady, who will be coming to give us some perspective. You know, this table right here, when we have guests or even when we share our stories and we share our thoughts, it never fails, man. We say it as the tagline of this podcast, but iron sharpens iron. We are sharpening one another. And an aspect that I think that we have not tapped into is unique perspectives or unique situations that maybe is not something that all of us, experience because of the situation that makes it very unique. In this case, in our guest case, Ms. Gina here, also, again, my mom, being a pastor's wife and being involved in ministry as you are, and what that feels like, what that looks like, lessons that you maybe have learned are very, very unique than the average, walk of someone who's maybe goes to work in a secular position or, what have you. So, I guess we'll just jump right on in and let you just kind of tell us your story and kind of where things started for you.
Right. I started in the IPHC as a small child. We were in the First Pentecostal Holiness Church in Charleston, and my daddy was the treasurer. My mom was the secretary there. So I've been affiliated with the IPHC all my life. In moving here, I moved here when we were in 5th grade and started in Ebenezer. They have become my family. They helped raise me as well as your dad, and of course you guys. And then now they're helping to raise my grandchildren. So this church is very unique. Our position is very unique. The people here love us. They are family to us. So, first foremost in my mind with a pastor's wife is their church has to become family. They have to love them as their family. They have to minister to them and be ready to move at any time as a family member that may call you. That's unique to us. That's not always the case with everyone else. And also, I guess one thing from my perspective is that pastors' wives have to be viewed as people, not just a position. It's tough for you to live in a glass house and for everyone to be watching you and looking at you and putting unrealistic expectations on you and your family when pastors' wives are just people saved by grace just like everyone else.
Yeah. One thing I remember growing up and whenever Dad became pastor, of course, naturally as pastors do, they get offered positions in different situations. And I remember coming into dinner one night and like, everybody, I need to sit down. We need to talk for a minute. And
didn't we go to a restaurant so y'all couldn't make a scene? Was it
I
a
don't
restaurant?
know. I can't remember. But anyway, it was the real possibility that we were leaving, and you've already alluded to it. This is our home. We were potentially going to be called away from our home, away from everything we've ever known.
Right.
We're fixing to uproot everything and move to a whole different part of the state to do ministry. And I was in high school. I was dating my wife.
Yeah.
I wasn't too keen on this idea.
No, not at all.
I had plans.
Not at all.
Saturdays at 7, dinner plans. I needed to be in town for
6 more years.
Yeah. So but the idea that, you know, a husband in our case and so many other pastors' cases, as the husband is the pastor, sometimes the wives as well, but how you were working, you're in school, you know, working as a teacher in education.
Right.
So then what does that balance look like between saying yes and answering the call and because we've always said it, you know, how hard it must be for missionaries to just say, I'm willing to just push everything in and go, yes, I'm going to follow you around the world and go all in. You know, what does that look like to you? What is going all in as a pastor's wife? You know,
well, you've done that twice. So,
yeah.
Well, you almost did that twice if you followed through with that move. But before you get too far in that, I got a couple questions that I would like to get out there. Like, first, where did you meet Pastor Gene, and how did that come about?
At Ebenezer.
You met him at Ebenezer?
Yeah.
So you moved here in 5th grade from Charleston, and he was, because at some point he was living in Texas.
That was more in high school.
Yeah.
So
And he was probably at Due West when I first got here, so he was not here at first. But then you know, he came back. He was always there with Granny and Granddaddy.
Right.
That was his summer. That's where he stayed. They helped to raise him. A lot of who Gene is a reflection to me of Granddaddy in a lot of aspects, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah.
But he was here, and so we probably met. Gene went to high school at Airport in 9th grade. Okay, we really didn't date or anything at that time, but then he moved away.
But so y'all had I don't know if you were committed or dating at that time, but you knew each other. You had a relationship, and then he'd moved away. And then when did you start dating? When you were like thinking?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard this. When did
that's a unique thing.
Okay.
To have
is
somebody
unique.
that goes in and
Were
out
y'all
of your
just
life.
friends?
Are y'all trying to set me up?
No.
Do you know the story?
I've never heard this either.
I've
You've
never heard it.
Yes, you have.
I mean, I know that. So were y'all just kind of familiar with one another?
We were
before
familiar
he left?
with one another. He was here at home one of the summers, and we started dating during one of those summers. Of course, he said, I love you, you know, and all those good things. And then he got on his airplane and went home to El Paso.
That's where
Granddaddy was stationed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the
in El
military.
Paso.
That's
El Paso,
what
Texas.
I want to know how this works out when you get that bond, you start dating, you start making commitment, and then he just, by no choice of his own, he has to go back to Texas, and then
Yes.
how do you rekindle this and grow from there?
Well, that Christmas, he brought his girlfriend home.
I was waiting on it. I was waiting.
Yeah,
I
and
knew this part.
Yeah, and she came in, and I'm in the bandstand, and I'm playing my bells, and he played
Trombone.
trombone.
Sure did.
And he came around, and he came in across the way on the other wing wall, and this girl's behind him.
Oh no!
Yeah, and her name was Christy.
Have y'all?
We'll beat that part out.
Have y'all ended
Just like my
your
sister.
relationship before he took his?
Hey, long distance is tough. All right, that's all.
No,
Out of sight, out of mind.
Different area code. Yeah.
so he comes in, you know, and when he came in, I saw him see me, you know, look at me, and then, you know, he looked down, and we never talked.
How old were you at this time?
I was a junior in high school.
Oh, so he was old enough to know. This wasn't like middle school.
No, he knew better. And so he comes in with his girlfriend, and then he goes back. He flies back. And so my mom had told me before she came home that I could go and see him, you know, and that was real big for my mama. I didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything. And so, you know, we lived in IPHC family, and my mom and dad are very committed. They're very, they live what they are. And so, you know, it's no mask on Sunday,
Right.
something different during the week. They
Right.
live who they are. And so, you know, I was very surprised. And so I sent him my senior picture. You know, you had the little things off the shoulders, you know, I sent him that
shoulder
picture.
action. So you sent him all this after you saw
Before.
him?
And so then I was going to go see him play football and all this stuff. And he was, you know, never responded. Then the girlfriend comes home. So then after that, he comes back home. I'm at USC. I'm a freshman, and he comes home that year. And I don't know, maybe I hear he's coming or something, because I remember having a conversation with my daddy around the table, and he said, "Well, you gonna see Gene?" And I said, "No, I am not going out with him.
You should almost see him.
I'm not going out with him. He brought his girlfriend home. Why would I go out with him?" And he pointed his finger at me. He said, "That boy don't know you nothing." I said, "Well, yeah, he kind of does." We were dating, and I said, if I go out with him, the first words out of his mouth must be, "I am sorry." And so that Sunday night, we actually went to our house that Sunday night. We didn't have youth pastors. Your daddy was kind of our youth pastor, and then Mike Backman. And they would kind of gather all the kids up, and they take them to different people's homes after church on Sunday night. And they would just rotate around, and I guess the families would provide the food, and it was my family's turn. And so we went in and ate, and we came back out, and Gene said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Well, come here, let me talk to you." And the first thing he said was, "I am sorry." Now, I don't know if my daddy called him and told him. He says not, but because he was very, very close with mom and daddy. And then his side of the story is, by the end of the night, she was putty in my hand. But that's not the truth.
I don't believe that.
No. But we did start dating again at that point, and then just started from there, and we're married my junior summer.
So he moved back shortly after that?
He was here, and then he was in Emmanuel for a little bit. He worked with Uncle Albert during the summer and building houses, and then he went to Emmanuel for a bit, and so he was back and forth.
And he went to the Army at some point, too.
That was all before.
All before?
That was all before he came home. Yeah. Right after he graduated, he attended boot camp in El Paso, and then he went to AIT. I don't know where that was, but anyway, somewhere in Texas before he ever came home. Okay. By the time he came home, he was in the reserves, and was in the reserves until just a few months before Zach was born.
It's very interesting. He was a medic. I don't know if y'all knew that.
Yeah, he told me
he did.
Yeah, he flew in when he was in Franklin Springs
like
in
helicopter.
Emmanuel. That was his 2 weeks when he would go. That was where he would go and meet. He would doing the
so
helicopter.
During this time though, you graduated from airport.
Graduated from airport.
So you were in this area pretty much from the time you moved up from Charleston, and then that's interesting. So that's kind of I haven't heard those details.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people poke that story to get it going. So when we're together to hear,
even pastors have passed.
Yes.
Well, keep in mind he didn't become a pastor until I was almost 10 years old.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So after you guys get married, was there any discussion at all about ministry? At least, I mean, obviously church was a big deal, but was the talk of going into full-time ministry or even being part of ministry at all, part-time, was that even a thought at that time?
When he was at Emmanuel, he got saved, really saved. That's part of his testimony. He lived the church life. He, taught Sunday school when he was in El Paso. But when he was in Emmanuel, he really dedicated his life to the Lord fully and opened his ears to what the Lord had for him. And the Lord asked him, I guess the Holy Spirit prompted him that there was a calling on his life to ministry. So when he came home that weekend, we were just out in the car after a date talking out in Mom and Daddy's yard, and he said, I feel like I'm called to ministry, and if you aren't willing to be part of that call, I just want to let you know that maybe this is not what we ought to do.
Wow.
And I thought, no, I mean, where you go, I go. I'm good with that. So when we got married, the year before we got married in 87, my junior year at USC, that summer. And I went, of course, back and finished my degree. And he had started the year before Royal Rangers. And Rangers, met on every Wednesday night. Jonathan was the first straight arrow that in my class that
well, I don't know about the first, but I was
first straight arrow to finish all your.
I was the first one to start
all the merits.
Start from first one to go the entire program.
That's correct.
So I think y'all might have been maybe a year, maybe maybe 2 before I started, but it wasn't much at all.
Yeah,
So,
it wasn't much. But
program was
you
just
were
getting going.
the first one to get all my merits, and I remember that. And then I taught in the church. I taught Rangers every Wednesday night. I taught Sunday school with my mom. Since the time I was 16, I was a teacher there. And of course, Gene was a commander. All my children were born on Wednesdays. Those are the only Wednesdays we missed. We were committed to Rangers. So to answer your question, I thought that we thought that Royal Rangers was his calling. That was his calling. That was it. We had the largest outpost in the world,
IPHC,
in the
yeah,
IPHC,
and in the world, right?
in the IPHC.
Right.
For a couple years, because you had to register your boys, and if they were there for 3 consistent weeks, we registered them, and then you'd have to pay so much, and so we had a really big outpost. So we really thought that was our ministry, and in fact, Gene was asked at one time to be the is it a conference commander or something before that position started, or at some point there was some high up position. So we really felt like that was our ministry. And then Gene quit working with construction. He worked with several family members, and he quit working there and went to work at the school district. And
in the maintenance department, right?
Head of
construction.
carpentry, and he did clearing and grading and whatnot. He had the best job that we could possibly have as a family, because Dina really didn't know Gene. Because if you're in construction, as you know, you're up with the sun.
It's tough.
You go into work, you come home, and it's dark, and your kids sometimes don't get to spend a lot of time with you. And if it's not raining on Saturday and you need to work, you're there on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so we had the best job. He was off during the summer when I was off. Not during the summer, during Christmas break, he was off, had the 2 weeks. And it was the best time in our life, but we began to feel miserable.
Yeah, and I was going off of that, and without completely like rehashing, I guess, the part that Pastor Gene described in his. How did the development of God's calling in his life ultimately? How did that affect you? How did you see him grow? But also, how did you realize that just being his support, being his ally, being his helper was a ministry unto itself, and being the best wife you can be to a pastor.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It is a calling. It's a calling on him as well as the wife, as well as the family. And just having that uneasiness, we knew something had to change. And then, of course, he got the phone call and that he's talked about, and he became the youth pastor. For me, it was a relief. It was like, the burden was lifted almost instantaneous. We knew that ministry was where he was supposed to be. It wasn't easy. There are things in my past that happened when I was a child with ministry in my church back in Charleston. So ministry was not something that I wanted. Ministry was not something that I thought we would be called to full-time in pastorate. I always thought it was Rangers or something like that. But we were called in, and I knew it was all in. I knew that's what his calling was. He totally confirmed that within me. Not only within me. Now, I did tell Gene, I said, there are 3 things that I have to have if you're going to be pastor. And we wrote them down. And, of course, when they had the meeting with Gene, all 3 of those things were answered.
Awesome. Wow.
And so when I knew those 3 things, that I had to have for my security, for my kids, when they were answered, I knew that was where we should be. Now, the decision is his, because he is the head of the house, and that is his position, and I just honor that. Not to say that I don't have something to say. I had 3 things that had to be answered and to feel comfortable, but God didn't have to answer those. But for me, he knew that that's what I needed, and that's what he granted me. To go back to what Zach said, when the family meeting, we had to go to a church. It was actually the Lake City Church.
Yep.
We went on a Sunday, and we had a young man that was like an armor bearer, kind of like Matthew is here. He met us. He took us around. His name was Mike. He took us around the whole church, showed us everything. He kind of indicated that we were going to be the pastors of that church. He said, well, if you're here, this and that. And so Gene preached. He did get 100% vote to go, and Zach did not want to go. He was dating. In fact, we let Kristen go with us.
Yeah.
Zach even said, if y'all go, I'm gonna stay here and stay with my mom and papa. I'm gonna stay here and finish school here. And I was like, babe, that's not an option.
Yes.
But
Different time.
yeah, Dina was kind of iffy. Caleb said, "Mama, I'll go where you go." But he did.
It's a lot easier when you're not.
Exactly. But when we got home, we didn't feel like that was it. And Jean said, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "It's not my calling. I'll support you wherever you go. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. I'm going to tell you some things that'll have to change if we go. Some things I think that need to be a little different if we go. But it's not my calling. It's yours." So he had to bear that burden, and it was tough. For several days, he got a package. I guess they sent him an email. Greg Amos was the bishop at the time, and sent him a package. And I never saw it. I never knew what the amount was they offered him. I never knew any of that. He had to make that call, and he did. He got up early one morning before any of us were up in the house, and he was praying, and the Lord spoke to him. He in an audible voice and said, "I'm not finished." He was youth pastor here, and he was not pastor yet, and we never thought we would be pastors. Or he would be the pastor here. So, but God called him and confirmed that within him.
Yeah.
Nice. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to go into when you make such a monumentous leap from, say, layperson to pastor. I mean, then obviously everybody has a calling and a purpose in the family of God, but obviously pastors are unique in that they are literally the intermediary between God and man, and they're trying to convey the gospel to the congregation, and also live up to the people's standards and what they view should be, an authority for them. So with that being said, obviously being a pastor has obviously been fruitful and been joyous for the whole family, I would say.
Yes, we are very blessed.
Yeah, and when it comes with that, I imagine just as equal, the enemy tries to come up and attack. And what are some of those things maybe that y'all had to deal with that, and how do you balance that out?
Well, hang on, before you answer that, this is basically the same question, just slightly more detailed. When any pastor, like we get a new pastor, they come here, they are, like Evan says, they are the leader. They're supposed to, and like you said, the glass house, you can see their life. They are supposed to have all the answers, whether they have them or not, because everybody looks for you that. And now this comes from my perspective, not being a pastor or not living that life. But when you look at them, and there's a reason they do that. There's a reason they've been chosen to be the leader, and they've earned that position to be a leader. Because you don't get that position without having a resume. And if we look at your life, you don't have to be the richest person in the world, but your finances are in order. You're not, struggling from, meal to meal. You're respectable. You've got everything in order. Your house is clean, physically and spiritually, all that stuff. Every form of that. Your children in order. Your life is in order. Now, whether from the outside looking in, whether inside you're fighting demons every day to keep it that way, that's between you and God. But from my perspective, no matter what comes at you, you're handling. You are managing everything. And when I look at that, I'm out here on the outside looking at like my life, and I know what's going on in my life and how crazy it is. And I'm like, if I could just get on their level, figure out what they know. Now, again, whether you're covering it up, moving things around, not revealing stuff, you have your life in order. Your kids, you're batting 3 for 3 right now. That's 100%.
Yeah, but you didn't see them growing up.
No, I didn't, but I'm looking at them now. So we're looking at the evidence that you've given in through your life. And I mean, this isn't just you in general. This is every pastor what you're supposed to do, or from outside looking in. If they're that's how they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be all the answers, everything, whether they know or not, and you earn that. So if you are in that position, that is how people look at you. The caveat to that is you grew up in this church, so everyone knows all of your little secrets, all the pastor's little secrets. So it's a whole nother perspective now. And Zach's coming to the same thing. So when you grow up, It's not like I'm your leader. It's like I'm your peer. And now, so it's how does people, it's like when Jesus was coming up and everybody knew him and he's like, hey, I'm the Savior. And they're like, what? No, you're Jesus.
Right.
I used to throw rocks at you when we were kids. So it's hard to like now look at you and put you on that pedestal when we were growing up together and stuff like that. And that's how I'm thinking this, because when you first came into this, the stuff you had to overcome during that. You've done this long enough now where everybody has you at that pedestal in that position. As hard as it is and uphold that image of you, I mean, it's borderline flawless from our point of view. Y'all have everything going. You've got an answer for everything, and the issues that come up are endless, and you can't even fathom the stuff that you have the fires you have to put out.
Right.
But y'all do it without any. It doesn't even look like it's an issue. So what I want to know is, when you did get called into ministry. You came into this church in particular. It'd be one thing to go to Lake City as your first church, but this church in particular, with everyone who knew you, was that harder, or was that a little bit of I don't want to say an easier thing? I mean, Zach, will you be able to answer that as good as anybody?
I have no other sample size to compare it to.
Yeah.
This is our only church.
So that's
so like we don't have anything to compare. So I would say.
But you've been given like offers or you've gone and preached at other churches.
Oh yeah.
And again, you wouldn't have the definite answer, but could you like say, I could see where that would be easier, or maybe it would be a little more difficult?
And you jump in wherever you want to.
I will.
We are. I mean, I can't speak for every church, because again, I'm in my little echo
silo,
chamber.
Silo.
Silo in here in our leadership role and our whole lives. I mean, we grew up here. Man, we are so blessed here. I'm telling the war stories that some of the pastors share about the disunity
pastors' wives.
and
can only imagine.
Like against them versus the board, or them or a church member, or them and the community.
Yeah.
Like the community supports the church supports the community, the church supports each other. Like I think we're so, because this is what we've always known, I think it's so easy to take that for granted.
Right.
But it was, again, for Dad, he kind of paved the way for me to step in ministry, but it was almost effortless to step into. You would think there would be some form of pressure or barrier there, but it was like you're working with the people you've always worked with. You've been in battles before together as a church. You've been through hard times. You've been through great times. It's like you trust one another, and it's like we're just going to keep on moving this thing forward. And
Well, I imagine too, it's a thing where, they know your secrets and they know all the things you did, but they also, in the same vein, they see your maturity, they see your growth, and they see your spiritual disciplines develop over time as well.
Well, and they see you as real people.
Well,
and you're one of them. Right. And that is, that to me, Jonathan, that was easier for me, because Gene could step in and get away with saying things here at Ebenezer that he probably couldn't anywhere else, because, he knows these people. Right. They respect him. They've grown up together. And when he says something, they know the heart behind it.
That's right.
And that's basically, to me, with a pastor's wife, they have to love their people. They have to get out in their community. They have to build a rapport. That is so key. You have to build a rapport with people. You have to be open. You have to learn how to share your husband. If that phone's on 24/7, and I'm good with that. I mean, we're up at 10 o'clock at night with people, coming to the door, and they, are y'all already in the bed? I need to talk. And to think, you say we have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. Right. And a lot of times when those people come, they have the answer. They're coming because somebody gave them a word, or the Lord woke them up, and, this is what he's saying, and what do you think? Well, what am I to say to that? The Lord says, what is it, Philippians 2:12, everyone work out their own salvation. Everyone work out, how they're supposed to live. And so, people think we have all the right answers. And of course, we have the scripture. We have the Holy Spirit's leading. We have our testimonies. We have our experiences being in the pastorate so many years. But we don't have all the right answers. And most of the time, when someone comes in to sit and chat with you in a home intimately, they kind of have the answer.
Yeah.
And either they don't want to do it, so they want you to validate
Yeah, they're looking
that
for validation
of what's not right, or they want you to validate, is
Give
this
them an
really,
out or
give them an
something like
out,
that, yeah.
or either, is this really what you feel like the Lord's saying?
But it's also good, growing up in the church and knowing the people, because it allows them to establish a trust with you guys. As far as, I mean, pastors are kind of unique in the fact that even though they don't necessarily go to counseling school, they kind of almost function as a pastor, a counselor, and in this case, he's operated as a construction worker. I mean, so many things. But yeah, going back to the trust thing, it allows people to have the confidence to go to you guys in trust, knowing that. And I know that's part of.
That's part of what Gene is. I mean,
and
confidentiality is real to him. And if you breach that, I mean, that's grounds almost to be fired. And that's very much for us. Now, around our table, as you guys know, we do talk sometimes church stuff, not as much. Doesn't occupy a lot of our time, but there may be things that come up and we discuss. But what we say does not go outside the walls of our home.
Exactly.
I mean, because people, that can destroy a family. It can destroy a church. It can destroy someone's trust in the Lord. I mean, you could turn them totally away by revealing one little piece of their secret. So, and pastors and pastors' wives, they hold so many burdens and so many secrets that a lot of people don't see. So, one of the biggest things a church family can do for them is pray. Pray over them, pray over their mind, pray over their heart. Pray when battles come, because they come. And they come hard. And usually for us, it's come against my children or my husband. And they're in a vulnerable place. One bad hug. And I said, a wife needs to know how to share her husband. That's so true. But a wife also needs to protect her husband. Right. And for me, I feel like the Lord's given me discernment. I mean, I can pick out when something's going awry. I know, and I watch, and the people in the foyer, they watch, in case someone were to say something, or, and we're never alone. Gene's never alone with anyone for that purpose. And, we just have to support each other in that role.
Yeah, I imagine that burden can kind of get really hard, when people come to you and they're coming to you with their darkest and deepest stuff, and you're having to kind of not bottle it in, but you're having to keep it to yourself. And I guess I want to ask a little bit harder question next with that. So out of all the stuff that people have asked you or have come to you with, could you potentially be privy to letting us know, or the people of the podcast who are listening know, who your favorite son-in-law is?
It's definitely Evan.
Yeah, hands down.
Hands down. Only
okay,
one.
Good.
Seriously, son, if we were to pick anyone, we couldn't have picked anyone better.
Dina told me to set that one up, by the way.
Nice. There you go. Shout out. I will say this: the support the mom has shown us. No, I guess being that Mama and Papa, her parents weren't pastors, and Granddaddy and Nana were chaplains in the military, but a little bit different dynamic there. Then and they led churches and stuff too. But you almost collectively we are learning on the job. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways,
it's kind of like parenting.
Yeah,
there is no book. There is
100%.
And someone may say to me, you ought to do this or you ought to do that. Yeah. But that's what worked in their church.
Right.
Every church is so different and so unique. And it's really only leading by the Holy Spirit that day to day what you should do and how you should react.
I have the unique perspective because I am also walking out this journey as a pastor, and I know that ministry can be hard, and there's an element that you don't want to take things personally because they're not meant to be personal.
Right.
Like dealing with people, but it does affect you personally.
Oh yeah.
Just to let maybe just to kind of pull the curtain back onto what a pastor faces. A pastor, first thing that we are is servants of the Lord and servants of the people.
Absolutely.
We're not performers. We're not rock stars.
And if you are doing that, you need to change your way.
Right.
Yeah,
we're walking down the wrong. We're walking down the wrong path. So, yeah. So we're serving, and so we pour our heart, our time, our effort, our prayers, literally our blood, sweat, tears to the people that we serve. There are no contracts, in a relationship. It's not like a marriage where we have a marriage license with our church people. We serve them because that's what God has called us to do.
Right.
With no guarantee, just as Jesus did, that they will love us back and appreciate it.
They could turn and walk away, but I'm going to stand here.
100%. So that's the call of the pastor.
Well, I was going to say too, and even with, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But even with like the story of him being a construction worker, obviously, him being gone, from sun up to sundown and not seeing his family. However, that kind of even transitions to, the roles past Sunday, right? Because obviously, a lot of times the people in the audience or congregation, they just think that he prepares a sermon and goes up and preaches, and then they leave, and all that the pastor's wife faces is basically any maybe talk about maybe how bad the sermon was or something on Sunday, and then that's it. But
he doesn't preach bad.
Well, yeah. But I'm saying, but that's what people
that's what they think. Picture in their head.
Right, but obviously throughout the week, there's still sometimes of that spontaneous, like I've got to go to the hospital. I've got to go see somebody. I've got to go fix something for a widow or whatever.
Right.
So it looks a little bit different. It's not necessarily the obligation of a job. It's more of my heart is
my heart's in it.
Longing to serve in more ways than just preaching.
Now, it does come a time when they were little and in the home, it's not so bad now. If Gene now calls me and says, Gina, we need to go to the hospital, so-and-so's there. Usually if it's a female, I try to go with him because you never know when you knock on that door and open it up.
Sure, accountability.
The female goes in if it's a female. Gene goes in if it's a male, usually. That's how we work it out. But I love going to those visits. I love going to the hospital. I have time now that I'm retired that I can do that. And I don't mind doing that at all. I would rather do that than anything. Those are our people, and they're in need. And if, as a pastor, a pastor's wife, a youth pastor, if you go to a ball game when you were a youth pastor, if you go to the hospital, if you go when someone's dying, that family will remember that. They will never forget in their time of need you were there. Now, on the flip side of that, when my guys were little, I can remember becoming extremely frustrated with people pulling on him all the time, and he was always going. And it seems like if we would announce we were going out of town, somebody's going to the hospital with a hangnail, and the preacher's got to go there, to see him. Yeah. It wouldn't be maybe as serious as I would have felt like he needed to go, but he always went. And so there were times when the kids were little that I would say, all right, Gene, I don't care who's sick or what's happening. Tomorrow is Zach's football game. We are all going to his football game. You're going to be daddy today. Go ahead and prepare to send someone else if something happens. And we have such a wonderful church family. You can call on people and they will support you.
Well, it means just as much too, with those people that you raise up, because they, the presence and the the representation of Ebenezer, the family being there is what matters.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, there came times that I just felt like as a family, we just needed to pull together.
100%.
And I think that's a role of a pastor's wife, that she does not need to be in any way ashamed of or afraid to call out.
That's right.
Because it's a lot of pastors who spend all their time trying to save the whole world and their whole church lose their children. Because they're never there. They're never there. And so to me, that was very a strong balance that I really felt like I had to help, Gene. And of course, he was never resistant to that. He always wanted to be. But in my mind, in my perspective, God is always first, my family second, then the church. Even if you're a pastor or a pastor's wife, that your family has to be ministered to, because you don't have them but a few years. And once they're gone, they're gone. And that's what you're raising them for. And so, to me, that was important to me.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, is how we desperately depend on your support. And not just, specifically as the pastor's wife, to keep us accountable, to keep our hands where they need to be, our minds, our time where it needs to be. Well, the conversation has kind of been leading to this idea of the importance of the pastor's wife being a key part in the support of her husband, of the family, of making sure that the pastor is home when he needs to be home, prioritizing family, accountability, but also just the refuge that we can come to whenever we have a tough day. Being our rock. That's all part of it. And Mom has always had that characteristic about her of support and of even like a protector mentality, like a mother instinct. I'm gonna protect
Mother Bear.
Yeah, don't poke the bear. She's gonna come running at you.
No.
Makes me think of a story here that brings us to a great place to share some fond memories and fun stories. I was much older. We had let me start here. When Mom and Dad were together, I'm assuming it was before I was born. Y'all were at a football game. One of the funniest stories was they were sitting in the student section at the Williams-Brice Stadium.
Right.
And there was some rowdy students above them. And somebody, I guess, started doing something. And she said, she's going to stand up and be like, y'all quit. Y'all stop all that. And they started talking back at her. She said, don't make me send my husband up there, Dad, sit next to, and he'll be back from the bathroom in just a minute. He's coming back. She has this way of wanting so bad to protect. She did that to us in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Do I remember?
Yeah.
I
was 21 years old. It was my last vacation before I got married. And I was of age in Vegas to walk through the casinos and do all the stuff. Not that I had any desire. I didn't have enough money to play.
Clarify that.
Right. But my sister and my brother were not. They're clearly, underage. And let me tell you, Vegas is a whole nother world.
Well, we had done a Southwestern trip. It was kind of like his senior trip. And Gina had taken us. We had saved for years.
Right. Through El Paso, up all the way.
We flew in El Paso. We saw his old house.
Right.
We went through lots of different, things along the way. And we traveled all the way. We saw Johnny. Gene preached at his church.
Yep.
Johnny
in
Arizona. And then we went into not El Paso. We went into Las Vegas to fly home.
Flew out Las Vegas. There's a long distance between here and South Congaree and Las Vegas. Culture shock.
Culture and miles.
So, have y'all been to Vegas before?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, so the hotel we stayed on was off of the strip, but it was just like a block off of the strip. So we left our hotel, we went into the MGM Grand through the casino, and we come out like we were coming out to the strip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First of all, casino was wild. Mm-hmm. And they told us like you had to stay on this little carpet path and you couldn't get off the carpet path. Basically, you couldn't stop.
Because the kids were underage.
Right. You could walk through, but you couldn't stop and you couldn't get off. Mm-hmm. And insane, all the stuff going on out there. Well, when we come up and we get onto the strip, like it is I'm crazy.
Getting mad thinking about it, baby.
Yeah. So we're from South Congaree where we love a good free handout. And, there are guys on the side of the road, on the sidewalk with these big neon shirts. And
it was guys and ladies.
Yeah. And
they're called card flickers.
Yeah, they have like these playing cards. And they're like doing like this. And they're like saying, they're like advertising for stuff. And you walk by and they hold it out to you. Mm-hmm. And from where we are, we're like, oh yeah, great. We picked them up.
They were in front of us, so they got them first.
Yeah, so we're walking down the sidewalk, and they, all of us grab these playing cards, and they are business cards for ladies of the evening.
Oh,
okay.
And they're not clothed. And
well,
they're not
no,
clothed.
they were, but
some of them were not clothed.
Anyway, I looked at mine before Caleb got it. I realized what it was. I was like, Caleb, give me that card.
Zach said,
yeah,
I slapped it out of his hand.
Boom! I was like, drop that card right now. And Mom was like, what is that? What did they give you? What are they doing? So the rest of the trip, we were walking down the sidewalk. We see the bright yellow shirt coming up, and Mom does like this right here in between us and the man, and she refuses to allow
Well,
anybody.
Caleb was 14.
Yeah, I think he's
Caleb was
14.
14. You remember Caleb at 14. He's huge. He looks like a man.
He looks pretty close to what he does now.
Right. So they were thinking Zach and Caleb were men, so they were going to hand them to the cards that were very inappropriate. And I'm sitting there, he's 14. Don't hand him a card. Don't you hand him a card. And they're like, Mama, back up. And I'm like, I'm not backing up. I'll punch the next one that hands you a card.
let a fool act up, boy. That's what she was doing. She's like this right here.
Ooh, I was going to take him out.
All she was missing was her gold chain.
Yes.
Well, part of my silly story, I know that pose very well, and I'll tell you how. So, basically, I've only seen it once. Thank God. So,
Towards you?
yeah.
Oh, no. Not you.
Tell us.
Well,
tell us.
I mean, it wasn't as pronounced, but
Do tell.
Dina and I were first going on a date, and or just started to date each other, and I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one, whatever it was a lunch date, and it was basically where we had enough time to come back, and Mr. Jean and you were inside the house, and she had just gotten I think it was her senior pictures taken, and she said, "You want to come inside with Mom and Dad? We can look at my senior pictures." I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so this is the first time I'm meeting your parents, and so I walk in, and from a guy's perspective, dating a daughter, a only daughter, I'm thinking that the dad's gonna be the tough guy, and then the mom's gonna be the sweetheart, like, oh, I love nice to meet you and all stuff. And so I'm ready. I've already planned the scenario out in my head. I'm like, look, I'm prepared for anything that he throws at me. And so I walk in there, and the man's just as outgoing and as nice and as easygoing.
You were
And
just glad Dina had a
welcoming.
nice
welcoming.
boyfriend.
It was so easy to talk to him. We were talking about Carolina football, like all kinds of stuff. I'm like, man, this is going better than I thought. And then, and so I realized about 15 minutes in, I had not seen you anywhere. And so I said, well, where's Dina's mom at? Where's Miss Gina at? And he said, oh, she's in a room or something, and she'll be out in a little bit. I'm like, okay. And anyway, we were wrapping up. I was getting done looking at all the pictures and everything, and I was actually heading out the door, and I had not spoken to her yet because she was busy or something. And so I remember I was heading towards the front door, and then she finally started coming around the hallway, and I stuck up my hand. I said, "Hey, I'm Evan," and she just walked right by me. I'm sitting there doing like this.
Ooh, cold shoulder.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and I was like, "What's wrong with your mom?" She's like, "Oh, she's just trying to act tough in front of me." I was like, "Okay." Then you finally came back, and you actually shook my hand. You were like, "Gina Henderson." And that's all you said.
That.
That's the only two words I got from you was Gina Henderson. So I was like, well, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And so anyway, but
that's good. Yeah, it wasn't an act at all. It was she's always had that instinct about her, and that is a good thing to have. John, did you have any stories or anything you wanted to
I don't have any that were related to the subject that would be worth telling. All mine were just like,
fond memories kind of.
You just not stereotypical, but you exceeded all the expectations of. So it wasn't like it was I don't have a good.
I was there when you
like
ran.
And, you were there.
James had to catch you.
Yeah, and you supported him. Yep, he's grounded today. So while we were in the.
Yeah, I think I was the one. I think I was one that had to watch, wasn't I? I had to stay back or something.
Yeah, you were one of them that did. I don't remember exactly.
I don't remember
all the
either,
details,
but I do remember that.
I remember you and your mother were my Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And man, I remember it's been a long road.
We talked. Mom and I talked from the time I was 16. Gosh, and then I continued to teach that class until Dina was born.
I think your sister was in there too.
She
at some
probably
point.
helped some too.
And it was
It was a third and fourth graders, I think, for years.
It could. I thought I was younger than that, but because it was the first. Because when you were a kid, you had the little 2 Sunday school rooms downstairs, and then you moved upstairs, and y'all were like when you walk up the stairs, that first hallway all the way down there.
Second
on
from the end, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. And I just remember, I think I remember the green table, or that might have been the straight area.
It was a green table.
Yeah.
There was a green, I can't remember where it was either.
It
was in one of those places.
Areas, but one of them too.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, this brings us to another one of our wonderful segments that we are going to kick off into season 3. questions from the basket from our producer Keeler, and a fresh batch of questions for our guest, Miss Gina.
Oh, for me?
Well, and for everyone, but I think these are targeted to you specifically. Okay. All right. So here we go. Some of these are deep. Some of these we don't want you to think about it. Just boom, knee jerk. Tell us what's the first thought. Okay.
Maybe.
All right. First question. We're going to give you a scenario. She played a scenario out here.
Oh,
Imagine, okay?
Okay.
If someone says it doesn't seem like wait a minute. I don't know. Is this correct? Do I just need to read the word? Okay. Imagine someone says that it doesn't seem like you don't do enough. Doesn't and don't. Okay. It doesn't seem like you do enough. What do you say? How do you react? How does that make you feel?
As a pastor's wife,
Yeah.
They just need to come live a couple days with us.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, it's not just preaching on Sundays that he does, And just like I said earlier, Gene's on 24/7. We have been awakened in the middle of the night, if not just to pray for someone, but to get up and get dressed and go somewhere. Yeah. Early in the morning. I mean, when we go to the hospitals, we have to be there at 5, 6 in the morning to be there for them and stay. There are some days we're gone all day long doing nothing but ministry. And sometimes don't even have time to eat when we get home. Yeah. It's just that full and that. But ministry is fun. It's a blessing, and it's busy. It's really busy.
Yeah. There's plenty to do for sure. Yeah. All right. Next question. Favorite hymn?
Favorite hymn? I'll Fly Away. That's what we used to play in the band, and that's one of the ones that we won National Talent on. That was one of the ones in the we had judged? 3 songs when they judged. Yes, they did judge, and we did win.
All right.
They judged fairly.
Fairly.
Yeah. All right, next question. What do you think the difference is in pastors' children that continue to serve versus those that leave the ministry?
I think a big factor in that is the life that's lived before them in their home. Either the husband's not there, he's absent, and he's putting the pastor is putting the church before his children, so his children are just lost in the mix. Or a pastor is not living a spirit-led, sanctified life. They have masks on. By that I mean during Sunday they're up there preaching, and they're telling everybody how they ought to live, but behind in their homes they're living something totally different, and kids see that, they pick up on that, and they feel like it's a game. 100%. I remember a gentleman, Stan, he's one of the M25 guys, and he was not a Mennonite, but he was in a group like the Amish, and he was a person in that group, and he was dating the pastor's daughter, and he was totally turned off to anything religious by one simple act. He went home with the pastor's daughter that day, and the pastor in this group, they didn't believe in taking pictures. So nobody could take pictures, kind of like the Amish do. Some of their convictions, with no problem with that if that's what they believe. And of course his family didn't, the whole church didn't, but he went home with the pastor, and the pastor and his family were setting up with a photographer for a family portrait to be hung in their home. And the first thing he thought was, now wait a minute, there are rules, there are things we are to do and we're not to do, and you're doing that? Well, what else are you doing?
Was it a photographer or was it an artist?
It was a photographer. He was literally taking a picture of the family, and he said, for years he ran on that one certain thing. He ran from the Lord.
Sure.
So for me, I think a lot of times if you're not living Christ in your home and you're not doing what you say to the church that they should be doing, and you're putting on a mask, then that creates a mindset of it's a game.
Right.
It's not a true walk.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole the paradox with the glass house thing, because obviously for a lot of pastors it can be a downfall, but I think in our case, obviously we've been blessed and privileged to have the glass house such that
absolutely.
we know people are looking, so It's not like we're putting on a show or anything like that.
No.
We're just trying to be the most genuine, people that.
It's
Right.
also what that position. I mean, if you accept that position, that's what you're signing up for.
Right,
I mean,
right,
and you
right.
know that going in, people are going to do that, right or wrong.
Right, they're going to do
that's-
that.
And there's no perfect pastor at
No,
all. We're
no.
all going through things and
we're-
on our journey with the Lord as well.
people.
However, knowing that there's going to be people watching me, that keeps me from going to places that you wouldn't need to
Right.
be or whatever, because you're like, well, what if somebody sees me, or what if I say this, and what if somebody hears it? So it's almost like layers of accountability.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe accountability through pressure. I don't know if that even makes
Yeah.
sense.
But I mean, that
Yeah.
creates another layer of stress.
It does.
That
It does.
is, I mean, most people, if someone who's not in leadership in church, which technically I guess we're all supposed to be in some way, shape, or form, but
You're not leadership. The church is not the one you got to answer to.
Right.
However, pastors do live that way. It's God and it's God alone.
Right.
But I see exactly
but
what you're saying.
if someone like a regular congregation, someone in the congregation just messes up, sins, whatever,
Right.
it's just the shame
That's
for
what
them.
that's
isn't
what you
the same as
expect
it,
from
yeah.
them.
I mean, it's easier for me to say, I'm sorry, I messed up, forgiveness, and then where that affects your position.
Oh, it affects your life.
I mean, yeah. So it's and
Oh,
again, that the pedestal that you're placed up on is a lot of stress and pressure to uphold that.
It is, but the one thing is though, if you keep your eyes, if you don't lose the forest for the trees or whatever
Right.
it is,
Keep your eyes on the Christ.
if you're walking in step with the Holy Spirit and with Jesus, and make Him the center of your ministry, center of your family, center of your marriage, a lot of those things. It will be a burden that's too heavy to bear.
It will be.
if you try to do it in your own strength.
I remember,
and He never called you to
No.
do it in your own strength.
I remember riding in the car with a ladies from the church, and they were just making comments about what people think, not necessarily about me, but about others, just chatting. And I finally said, I don't care what anybody else thinks about me. And they were like, oh, you can't say that. And I was like, well, yeah, I can, because I'm not accountable to them. I'm accountable to the Lord and the Holy Spirit and the way He leads me. And even if you don't understand, I've been called to do it this way, and this is the way I have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth for everyone else.
Yep.
I may not understand why you do things the way you do things and how you live, but it's not up to me to save you. That's something you've got to work out with the Holy Spirit and the convictions that He puts on you. And I may have convictions that you don't have. Like in my house, we don't drink. That's a conviction that we have. But if you do, that doesn't mean that I have the right to say, well, you're going to go to hell for that. That's not my conviction. It's not my place. That's something you've got to work out with the Lord and how you live your life.
Yeah, so these questions are digging a little deeper into our already, deep conversation we've had with you. So we appreciate your honesty and kind of continuing to share here. Our next question is, when your children were growing up and made a mistake, how worried were you about what the church would think?
I wasn't worried about the church at all. I wasn't. I can remember when Zach, bless his heart, he was our oldest, and he was the one that took all the heat, I think, from the church watching. No, not really. Like one time somebody came to me, it was an older lady, and I don't even remember who she was. She came up and said, "Your Zach was kissing Kristen goodbye in the, in the
Sure was too, boy. Sure was.
And I said, the more I talked with her and the more I uncovered, they weren't making out and being inappropriate. He was, kissing her to tell her goodbye. And I just finally, after, hearing a good bit of the conversation, I said, well, let me ask you, when you were dating, did you kiss your husband or your
You should have
boyfriend?
told her that you kissed his daddy goodbye.
I said, did you
That's
kiss
what we
your,
do.
did you kiss someone goodbye? And they said, well, yeah. And I said, he's just
Yeah.
being.
Well,
and
I'm
so
about to
for
say,
me, I couldn't focus on, what I could not wear. And I remember my mama telling me early on, Gina, be who you are. Don't worry about what people try to put on you. You're not a pianist. You're not a choir director. That's not your role, because a lot of pastors' wives have to take that role. She said, Gina, be who you are. And I mean, that's just what I knew to do. Be me, be real, and think about Christ and what His expectations were of me. because that's who I'm answering
Well,
to.
you
Yeah.
also never had to worry about your kids doing anything crazy. So if you,
Oh, Jonathan.
well, crazy, but not
I
like,
appreciate you.
not like, I mean,
Each one of
I
my
would-
children had definite things that they
they
did.
probably did, but nothing like, you know,
They did not go to jail. And
They
I
did not.
have
I
to
didn't want to say that, but they didn't do that. So you, in the realm of being kids, and kids can get into some stuff. They were pretty. There was a lot of parents who would trade their mischievous actions for what their children are or have done. So
Yeah,
what I'm
we
saying
we
is,
kept close and hard.
yeah.
She was
I was
called,
hard.
She
I
was
was
called
hard.
the warden.
And
by
that
her
was
friends.
Yeah.
no,
So
that
I
was that was in
understand
the
that.
classroom.
and y'all
that was
did
in
not
my
spare the
classroom.
rod either. So
Right.
that goes a long way. That keeps people in check.
Bless their hearts, both of theirs. They had to be home at 10:00. I
Look.
mean, they're 2021 dating. I'm like, y'all better be
They're-
home
look
at
here.
10:00. I don't care.
Right.
But now, of course, they had the luxury to call me and say, Mama, we want to go see a midnight movie. Can we do that? But we were tough.
Well, yeah, but likewise,
We
talking
were
about the
tough.
guys,
Yeah.
there was a time even when Dina and I were around the track, and we got some, somebody
Oh,
called and
yes.
saying she's walking with that guy on the track.
Oh yeah,
the track. And
all
I'm
the
like-
time that happened.
He's got a
But
beard.
mom put tight.
Not that time I didn't.
Mom put tight guardrails. We couldn't go to different people's houses.
No,
we couldn't do certain things
no.
that
That
all
was
of our
because
friends
of
were
my
doing.
background.
And I'll tell you this. In the time, I was like, man, why you gotta be like that? Let me tell you something.
Now it's
Looking
like,
back,
you know what?
I honestly think that could very well be the difference.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because I'm telling you, if I would have went to
Yeah.
certain people's houses,
Yeah.
what we could maybe have experienced or something that could have happened, or we could have done something that could have derailed or maybe planted a seed of rebellion.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're putting a lot of trust in your specific child's
Right.
decision making, and like
100%.
And the
they-
consequences of the decisions they make have crazy effects on
Yeah.
you.
For the rest of your life.
So
Sometimes.
mom, we
If my children ever went to your home, you were
You were approved.
highly approved
yeah.
and
pretty much
favored.
family,
You're a vet-
pretty much
yeah.
family or people
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
were
Oh,
had
yeah.
tight circles.
And
of.
the whole spare the rod thing too. Like if they didn't do that, because I mean,
I probably
understand
popped
the
them
situation.
more than I needed to.
Yeah,
I know in
but-
first grade, poor old Zach.
If you looking back at the time, I was like, man, these are I'm not pumped on getting all these, capital punishment. But looking back on it, I'd be like, if I hadn't have got that,
Yeah.
if that cloud didn't hang over your head, like if you step outside, you will be corrected. I can't imagine what I'd have got into or what.
Well, now I was the
Absolutely.
disciplinarian in our house.
Now,
Gene-
Dad,
Gene
Dad
was the
brought the
easy.
boom.
Well,
He did bring the boom.
You were the disciplinarian.
Phase one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You set where the line was at.
Yes.
And then once you crossed it, the heavy enforcement came.
Well, I remember when Zach
That's why you
was-
flirted with that line. You didn't go
I
past
remember
it.
when Zach was little one time, he said he was misbehaving. He was just a typical 2-year-old. And I remember Gene came home and I said, I had to tear him up. I had to do this and I had to do that. And you need to go talk to him. And he said, Gina, I am not coming home to this every day. Take care of it yourself. Because it's going to do no good for me to go back and tell a 2-year-old, spank him and try to remind him of what he did. Take care of it in the minute. So I took that serious. I took care of it in the minute.
Yeah.
But now I do remember one time coming home. I don't know if it was Zach or Dina, because they were both at my school. And one of them in the back seat said, Mama, please don't tell Daddy. Please. And I remember saying, you mean to tell me you want me to lie
That
to
was
my
probably
husband?
me.
No, I don't want you to lie. I just don't want you to say.
I will not lie to my husband for you or anyone else. And I told their daddy. But now, that's another thing. We were consistent.
Yeah.
As a part of parenting, I think is a problem.
That
when
makes it-
when you're like, one more time,
Yeah.
one more time,
That
one more
makes
time.
it easier to understand. Like when you get, it's coming. So when you step past it, there's no amount of pleading, no
That's right.
lawyer, no attorney gonna get you out. There's a price to pay. So when you cross that line.
Well, that's the way it is with God. I was reading
Yeah.
in Samuel, 1 Samuel the other day, and Saul was like talking to Samuel. He was like, please change his mind. I'm sorry. Talk to your God. And he said, God's made up his mind. When
Yeah,
he's made
that's
up his
it.
mind, there is no lie, no way to turn his mind in another way.
Yeah.
And so that was us. No way to turn our mind another way.
It be like that sometimes. Hey, it was, but again, I'm grateful for every moment because clearly,
Yeah, look at the results it produces. So you
Right.
can't argue with
could have
that.
really been different. Final question: on the days serving feels like a burden, what do you pray, or what verse do you go to?
Gosh, it depends on the day.
Yeah.
It depends on the day. Sometimes I just open the Bible and let it speak to me. But for me, it's waking up every morning with the Word, and that is so important, and allowing Him to speak to you through the Word, and allow the Holy Spirit to guide you. Because I know every day we say, Lord, bless us. I mean, when your daddy and I talk, and many mornings pray together, talk together, we're, Lord, wherever you need us to do today, who do you need us to talk to? And I think a lot of times we're so concerned about finding, the greatest person to go and witness to or talk to uplift, but it's really just the person in front of you.
Right.
It's just the one in front of you, who He puts in front of you that you need to spend your time with and serve, and give them your undivided attention. And sometimes that undivided attention is saying absolutely nothing, just being there,
That's good.
just being present. Gosh, as far as a verse, no, I don't have a favorite. My favorite book in the Bible is James, but I don't have a favorite verse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly you were mentioning, I mean, the Word sustains you in all seasons and anything you go through. So that certainly is something that we all can appreciate and take away. Is there anything else that you guys want to throw out there before we land this plane?
I'm good, man.
It's been a good episode. It's been a good conversation.
Good episode.
I learned something today that I hadn't
What?
always learned when you and Dad got together.
Yeah, I didn't know there was.
I didn't know the timeline on how all that worked out.
What do we call
The
a separation
separation?
and then a comeback?
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly how that worked, because I knew he was in Texas.
I
And
knew.
then,
Yeah. This has really been good. It's really stretched us and helped us
me.
really appreciate.
your perspective.
That's right.
Where you come
Well,
from.
and it's the thing too is pastors' wives. They're not just supporting actors. They're
Right.
I mean, they're right there
Key
with their
players.
husbands. Yeah.
100%. Well, this has been a good one. We thank you so much for tuning in with us. We want to encourage you to tune back in. We have an amazing season planned for you. So it's every episode. It's going to be a very, very good journey together. So I want to encourage you to check us out. And until next time, stay sharp.